Yeah, well, I started out as a left-arm fast bowler, left-arm over, early in my career. Had a few injuries, some fitness challenges. So later in my career, slowed down a little bit, concentrated more on swinging the ball, line and length. So yeah, I started at 9. I played for a little club in Milton Keynes called Old Brook, one of the estate teams. I just wandered down there one day and saw them doing it, and I was interested, loved cricket. It was a chance for me to have a go. So that was my first club. Played for another club in Milton Keynes Village. And then when I was 18, I was lucky enough to go and play for the MCC Young Cricketers. So I played a little bit of age group cricket for Northants, Bucks, and then, MCC Young Cricketers. Played a lot of second team cricket for Middlesex. And then I got quite badly injured. But luckily that meant that I could come and play for Stony. And that was in 1999. And played for the first team until 2014, and that was when another injury stopped that. So a few injuries along the way, but yeah, that's pretty much my my story. Favourite way of getting someone out is probably bowled, and as I think for any fast bowler, knocking stumps over is something that's a good sight. I particularly used to like bowling people through the gate. So right-handed batsmen swinging the ball back in, them trying to hit the ball through the offside and the ball hitting middle or leg stump. That was probably my favourite way of getting someone out.
Brilliant.
Well, my best bowling analysis was when I was 14, actually. I played a game for Old Brook, second 11, against Little Horwood, and I got 8 for 8. But for Stony, it was I got 8 for 17 against Findon once. So yeah, I think that's definitely the best spell of bowling from me. I think one thing is, and it's not maybe something that would go viral on video as a fun practice as such, but is really important, is how people hold the ball. Because for someone, a swing bowler like me, how you hold the ball is really, really important. Because what you want to be able to do to get the ball swinging is to get the seam coming out backwards like that. So a seam dead straight or pointed in the direction that you want to swing it, but get the seam going. And the key to that is the wrist. So getting your thumb underneath the ball like that and having your wrist straight, and then just allowing the ball to come out like that, but not like that. So a good way of showing a little subtle difference is if you put your thumb on the side of the ball, like a lot of people, some young cricketers do, what tends to happen is as you bowl, your hand will come out like that, and therefore the seam will come out all scrambled. If you can get your thumb under the ball, and then just to practice, a couple of ways, just literally throwing the ball into your hand and watching that seam come out, or get mum and dad or brother or sister to stand at the other end of the garden and just bowl, but bowl it into their hands on the full, but watch that seam coming out. And just do that over and over again. Because if you've got aspirations to be a swing bowler or to get the ball to move around a little bit, the best way that you can have a good action and all that, but if the ball comes out wrong, it won't swing. So the key to it is to get your thumb under the ball, fingers behind the seam, and get it coming out like that. And you can practice that in the garden or on your own all day. Yeah, because you sometimes see those half and half cricket balls, can't you? The red and white ones, and they're designed to show you how the ball's, if it comes out red and white, it means that the ball's straight. If it comes out all pink and blurry, it's because the seam's got scrambled. So yeah, you could use a tennis ball taped up.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's a good thing. I always think for young cricketers or anyone, if you can add a little bit of competition to your practice and make it a little bit intense, or at least a bit of risk reward in the practice, that just makes it a bit more meaningful. So one thing you could do is, if you've got, let's say you're practicing hitting a certain length and you've got enough space in your garden, or even you're using a wall. So if you haven't got enough space, you could draw a target on the wall in chalk if your mum and dad are all right with that. And you could practice running up and hitting that target. And let's say you give yourself a task of hitting it 3 times in a row, and every time you miss, you start again. So maybe after that second one, you're walking back to your mark and you're thinking, all right, I've got to get this now, or I've got to start again. It just adds a little bit more intensity, and you can then start to take some of that experience into matches when you know you've got to hit a certain area to get a batsman out. It's just maybe a little bit having something to aim for rather than just running up in the garden and just bowling over and over again. I think is good. It's a good idea. That's a great question. I would say stock balls, because if you haven't got a stock ball and you haven't got confidence that you can land it where you want to, you're going to struggle, because you won't have any consistency. And I think so for me, the 2 things that I practiced were, because I bowled in swingers, I was trying to practice starting a ball on stump 6. So if you imagine 2 sets of stumps, the stumps and another set of stumps to the left, as I looked at it, I was trying to start the ball on stump 6 and swing the ball back in. So I would practice hitting an area which would mean that I'm hitting stump 6 all the time in the nets. And then the second thing is length. So I would be trying to hit a length, which meant the batsman didn't know whether to go forwards or backwards. And then those 2 things combined, swinging and length, made it tough, if I got it right, for the batsman to hit me. So I would say practice your stock ball and your line and length as much as you possibly can. So hitting a certain patch on the wicket or on the wall. But having alternatives is good. So for me, if it wasn't swinging around so much, maybe it's the middle of the summer and it was a hard wicket at Campbell Park and the shine had gone off the ball, I would try and buy slower balls. Or maybe I'd come round the wicket and try and change my angle. So I think variation obviously is very important. But for me, having a stock ball that you can go to confidently is super, super important. There's probably not one answer because all the batsmen are different. So I think it's a combination of either maximising the conditions. So what I mean by that is if the conditions are super in your favour as a bowler, it's less about working a batsman out and more about taking advantage of the conditions, because it becomes very difficult for the batsman in swinging green conditions, let's say. You don't have to think too hard about working someone out. That's more about discipline of hitting line and length. I think when it was more of an even contest on flatter wickets, that's when you have to work someone out. And sometimes it can be that, perhaps a batsman will get frustrated if they have to block a few balls, and therefore as a bowler you know that a big shot is coming, so you might set your field slightly differently, you might bowl a slower ball. Other times a batsman might have a bit of a weakness that you catch onto early, so perhaps they can't, the short ball, they duck out the way of it or take their eye off of it, and so perhaps I bowl more short balls than normal. It would just depend really on who the batsman was. But that's my point, is that in order to take advantage of these things, you have to have these balls in your armoury. And that's where practice comes in, because you don't kind of learn how to bowl these balls in matches, if that makes sense. But just watch the batsmen, talk to the captains, just look at where they're trying to hit the ball, but also look to see where you think they might be struggling, and then just really load up on those areas where they're struggling. Another really good question. Actually, probably quite late for me. So I started playing cricket very young, in men's cricket, and so for the first good, I would say, almost 10 years actually, I had my field set for me, which meant that when I did go and play professional cricket and the captain asks you what field you want, often I would have said, I don't know, and that did not go down well. So I had to learn pretty quickly. And I think for me, it was my field setting was quite basic. So a conventional field would always have a cover position. So it's a place on the field in front of square on the offside where the ball goes to a lot. But for me, because I was swinging the ball back into the right-handed batsman, I actually wanted them to try and hit it there. Because if they tried to, and obviously if they missed and the ball went back inside the bat, they were going to get bowled or LBW. So I basically learned quite young that taking a cover off and moving a mid off quite wide, opened up an opportunity for the batsman, definitely. But for me, it greatly increased my chances of getting wickets because they would try and hit the ball where I wanted them to. And conversely, I closed up the leg side by packing the fielders on the leg side, because with the ball for the right-hander coming in, it meant they would try and hit it that way more often, but there'd be no space because the field would be full. So that was, for me, my basic plan. But it did take me quite a while to work that out. For me, again, a lot of it comes down to fundamentals. So how you hold the ball, keeping your head still when you're bowling. Even in the garden, off a couple of paces, you can just run up and bowl that over and over again, but practicing keeping your head still, keeping your thumb underneath the ball, keeping that arm straight as it's coming over. Just practice that repetition, I think, is really, really important. And then I think whatever it is you're practicing with your bowling, try and make a little competition out of it. Don't just run up and down in the garden. Well, I mean, you can run up and down the garden and have fun, but if you're practicing, I think try and put some competition in, either against mum or dad, brother, sister, or even on your own. I think that would be what I would be looking to do. I think the other thing, the last thing to think about is, like we just touched on, is mental approach. So there are lots of, I think one thing that really sets good young cricketers apart are the ones that are able to think for themselves quite early. Because there's some great coaching out there, lots of boys and girls being taught how to bat and bowl properly, and play with a straight bat or bowl with the right position. But how you apply those skills and how you manage to figure batsmen out as a bowler, there's not many people that can do that at a young age. And if you can, and you think about your bowling well, I think you're at a real advantage.